Hello my withered friends, welcome to yet another video. Doing something different today, or should I say something marginally different. If you've seen one of my videos, then you'll probably see that I am a big fan of Warhammer. So I'm going to be doing some lore and explanation of my thoughts on the lore of Warhammer. This series is called, if I make it a series, What If, or something like that. Basically taking something from the Warhammer 40,000 universe and changing it. Yeah, this one's going to be the first episode of Warhammer What If. Oof. So, where shall I start? And who should I start with? So many questions. I could start with Lorgar, the choir boy with a massive follower complex and, well, douchebag personality disorder. I could start with Gilliman, the avenging son who started off this arrogant snob who's recently become humbled because of the shit that the Imperium has done. But frankly, I'm going to start somewhere else. Yes, it is indeed. It is to do with the Ultramar Segmentum. Today, I'm talking about my favourite Primarch, and equally the most tragic one, Angron Valkyr. Where to start with this guy? In the early lore, he was shrouded in a great deal of mystery, and all that was known was he had these things hammered into his skull, these barbed wire things. At least I believe they're barbed, that's my headcanon at least, into the meat of his brain. And he was a fluffing berserker. The Horus Heresy has recently, well, not recently, but given him a great deal of backstory, more so recently though. He landed on a planet called Nuceria, and he didn't become the leader of the planet he was installed on. There was some group of Eldar, or presumably Eldar, that gravely wounded him, and the slaver who imprisoned him and probably used fail-safes, judged by how strong this large 5-year-old child was. Well, this young Primarch killed what is described as scores, which, as one of my favourite YouTubers says, is a group of 20, so at the least 20 Eldar. And scores mean, can you imagine? The point being is, this man, rather than take him in as a son, raise him to the Nucerian nobility, decided, you know what, this child is in dire need of medical help. Let's enslave the bastard. So he does that. They take him to a city called Eludus. Not Eludus, a city in I think it's Eludus. Even though I get mixed up with Spartacus, but well, I know the name of the city, Dacia. Yeah, that's it. I was getting mixed up with Spartacus, which was obviously his who influenced Angron. Anyway, he was forced to fight for his life and was an honourable fighter, and he never had a true foster father figure, but he had one that was pretty close, called Onomaus, or whatever you pronounce it as. I would prefer to pronounce it as onomous, for it is easier to pronounce and just sounds more pleasing to me. They were like a father and son duo. Yep. So, one day they fight two Angron berserkers implanted with those implants, which had the name the Butcher's Nails, or in terms, or High Gothic, Cruciamen, which is a pretty fitting name considering the agony these things must produce. I mean, excuse me, friends, I just got a cold or recovering from one. They succeeded on Amias and Angron, so the leaders who Angron and the fellow slaves called High Riders ordered gleefully, I might add, that Angron kill his, or Amias or Angron kill each other in glorious gladiatorial combat. Angron refuses and gets these nails implanted in him, and in a fit of blind rage kills his foster father. When he recovers and sees what he's done, he howls like a rabid animal for I'm not sure how long, I think it's 3 days or 5 days, but a long time. The point I'm making, why is the Butcher's Nail so important? I'll come to that a bit later, but before he had the nails, he had the ability to take away another's physical, emotional, or mental pain with but a touch. You see, Angron wasn't the Emperor's anger, but his empathy, in an interesting twist of fates, which makes me wonder why, if this is indeed still canon, why the Emperor considered aborting Angron. Was it because he believed there was no empathy to be used in the Great Crusade? Now, back to the nails and Angron. The death of his foster father caused Angron to, quite frankly, stage a revolt. He knew he wasn't going to win, but he had brothers and sisters, so to speak, which were fellow slaves and gladiators. And on the night that on the nights where he was waiting for death with his brothers and sisters, he would open his veins or arteries to feed them, even with the nails biting at every response in his brain. You see, they are a diabolical device at the best times. But used for control, and it's awful. I hope humanity in real life never creates something like the Butcher's Nails. These implants implanted in a human would be diabolical. In an Angron, worse. But a Primarch, it was a death wish, for the Primarch's brain was not built for, or more accurately, the nails were not built for a Primarch's brain because it was just too complex. Every time Angron tried to heal, or the brain tried to heal, it would bite further and further. And my headcanon is, rather than grow like they supposedly did around his spine, they were barbs and they would vibrate in the brain, causing more and more damage. That, and rather than just being the front of his head, it was also into the brain stem. Hence why the Emperor couldn't remove them. Which he decided to look later to see if he could, and he decided that it wasn't worth the effort because, one, it could kill this potentially loyalist son of his, and the Emperor treated all his sons as tools, or it would leave him vegetative. So they would decided, let's get use out of this broken tool of mine. Now back to the Emperor. when they were ready to fight to the death, the Emperor arrives. He tells Angron, "Join me in the Great Crusade." And Angron refuses. He says his place is with his brothers and his sisters, with nobility that you would not expect from a man with barbed tendrils in his brain, let alone a man whose impulse control is all but lost. The Emperor should have smiled proudly and ordered the Custodes and Horace Lupercal, who was there at the time, I think, to let the Warhounds, who became the World Eaters, onto the surface of New Syria and bring Angron's slave army a good example and show Angron his sons were worthy. What the Emperor actually did was teleport him up, while Angron's forces were massacred because they had no morale anymore. If the Emperor wanted to screw Angron over even more, he should have just killed Angron's slaves. Now, what's the what if situation in this whole video? The point is, what if it isn't about what if Angron didn't get the butcher's nails? There have been plenty of those videos. It isn't even of what he was on a different planet. No. This video is, what if the Emperor helped Angron? What if he did the human thing to do? Not the impulsive narcissist who doesn't want to be hailed as a god, yet acts like a god. Well, what would happen if the Emperor did the human thing? I am fully inclined to believe that had the Emperor helped Angron undo Syria, even with the nails biting, Angron would have been loyal to the end. And when the Horus Heresy happened, he would try and it's hard to say what would happen with him and Magnus, for he didn't trust Sychus for good reason because of what happened in New Syria, which you should read Slave of New Syria to find out. But when it came to the final showdown with Horus, Sanguinius, and the Emperor, I am fully incented to believe that Angron would have gone in first and tried to save Horus using words such as, "You are no," like you said to me so many years ago, you are more than just a slave. Do not give to these highlighted gods or something. And Horus, having fallen, would have fought Angron. Angron would have lost, but given a grave wound to Horus, so that when Sanguinius came in, although he'd probably be severely wounded to the point of having to become a Primarch Dead Dreadnought, which I'll probably put in a different video, he would have lived. The Emperor would never have had to ascend to godhood, and likely as a result, the Imperium would be a better place for everyone involved. Rogel Dawn and the Black Templars, well, Rogel Dawn would likely have not had to perform the Iron Cage disaster, as I call it, and the Adeptus Astartes likely wouldn't split because of, well, certain situations. Angron would have been given a grand, almost sanguineous level day, and known as the Liberator of New Syria, and that would be his name, Angron, Liberator of New Syria, and probably the day would be Liberatus, where every year on that day, they liberate a planet of slaves. There would be statues of Angron, butchers, nails, everything, seen as a hero of mankind, almost venerated to the point where, well, as I said, almost a sanguineous level venerated. And because of this, and back to the butcher's nails, if this had happened, if Angron hadn't been enslaved, I'm sure Horus could have helped him realise that perhaps butcher's nails weren't all as good as they thought they were, and therefore he would have implanted them into his sons. But unfortunately, in the universe of Warhammer 40,000, the Emperor fell to impatience, and it's because of that impatience that we have a once noble well, not noble, but a once noble warrior to a raid-filled man to now a demon primarch of Khorne. I hope this gives you context to my beliefs and what kind of a person Angron was. See you next time in my next video. Until then, well, goodbye.